Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. Um, I'm your American co-host slash takeover queen because that's what I do. I take over everything. Karina, that's me. Yep. And I'm, uh, yeah, joined by our
Did you just
normal.
forget your own name?
I did. I'm joined by our normal host, Jamie Apps, who lists his favorite TV show is South Park, and his favorite movie this time around is going to be Waterworld because it's the most obscure movie I thought of in my head, and I've actually never seen it. So, yeah,
What?
I'm just full of revelations this year. What can I say? It's which trailer is that? I think it's on Max or something like that. I just haven't committed to the 2 hours of
It's
watching
probably
it.
on Paramount, isn't it?
I don't know. It's on one of them because I came across it and I was like, oh, I have never seen it. I should probably watch that.
Guess what's getting added to the list this year?
Why? There's no anniversary for Waterworld.
1995.
Oh, is it? God, I feel fucking old now.
That's a 30-year-old movie.
God, we're fucking old. Well, speaking of old, we are doing our flashback movie. Kicking off the flashback episodes of this year because I told Jamie that's what I wanted to do, and he was like, I guess so, because you wear the pants around here, not me. So that's what's happening. It's exactly how that conversation went down too, just throwing that out there.
Okay.
So this week, for our flashback episode, we are doing Requiem for a Dream. It is the 2000 movie. So it's 25 years this year, which again makes me feel really old because I don't feel like it's that old, but it is. It's directed by Darren Aronofsky, I think is how you say his last name. He's the same guy who did Black Swan. Stars Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, Marlon Wayans, and Ellen Burstyn. It's all about addiction. So, trigger warning ahead of time for anybody who might be sensitive to that kind of thing. With this episode, we are going to discuss certain things like that. So just be wary and cautious. But yeah, so before we get into it, what do you know about this? What did you know about this, and how do you like it, or how did you feel?
So I knew nothing about this. I had never seen it before. Darren Aronofsky, one of my actual favorite directors, with The Wrestler, Black Swan, Mother, and just recently The Whale. Awesome films all around, and this one was also very good. Very intense.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the way it depicts drug addiction in all forms and all potential outcomes. Oh boy.
Yeah, this movie really hits it. I'm really glad that I suggested this. This is a movie that I suggest to a lot of people, with caution. There are some people that I know that cannot watch this film just because it's triggering or brings back bad memories, whatever have you. But it is one of I constantly go back to this movie for some odd reason, and it seems like a very weird film to say that I go back to quite frequently. But I do enjoy it, and so I'm glad that I was actually able to introduce you to it since you like this director and you had never seen it. So points for me.
Yeah, it's very good. Definitely Jared Leto's best movie.
Yeah, this is actually one of my top films for him. This movie and Mr. Nobody are my two top Leto movies. And yeah, I mean, yeah, he's him. But
It's definitely much better than the
Morbius or
Joker,
Joker.
Morbius. Yeah.
Dallas Buyers Club was another really good one with him, but that's about it. Like there's 3 films that I can name with him in it that I actually find to be really good with him. But yeah, Jared Leto's phenomenal in this movie. Jennifer Connelly is absolutely fantastic in this. The whole cast is just mind-boggling good. It's really eerie how they portray so well, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I looked at the cast list, and some of the other movies that these actors have done as well. These are some pretty heavy hitters in this film, like Jared Leto, well-known singer turned actor.
Yeah.
Jennifer Connelly, who had previously done Labyrinth, is also in the most recent Top Gun Maverick. Ellen Burstyn from The Exorcist and Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marlon Wayans, obviously from the Wayans brothers, done
Yep.
White Chicks and Scary Movie, another movie which we are planning to revisit this year because it is also 25.
Jesus. Yep. These episodes are gonna really like I think hit home or for a lot of people like our age. They're just gonna be like, really? Did you have to remind us how old we are?
Hmm. And then Christopher McDonald also in this one from Happy Gilmore fame, another movie we're going to revisit this year ahead of Happy Gilmore 2.
Yeah.
And then Mark Margolis of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul fame
Yeah.
most recently. But yeah, a very intense movie, incredibly bleak movie as well. Like there is no happy ending with this one.
No, this is definitely not a happily ever after. They don't sugarcoat anything in this. It is a very raw movie. For as I guess as raw as they could probably get it without almost crossing legal boundaries, probably. um, but yeah,
Yeah, Jared Leto went some interesting directions to study for this role.
yeah, so this movie, our main character who's played by Jared Leto, his name's Harry. Him and his friend, what's his name? Tyrone, are heroin addicts and they do just about anything to get their fix. Jennifer Connelly is also a heroin addict as well as addicted to coke. And Jared Leto's mom inadvertently becomes addicted to speed and diet pills. So yeah, this film does not just cover hardcore drugs. It covers, in my opinion, like body dysmorphia, trying to be perfect, just not accepting yourself, and any kind of real addiction, whether it be addiction to TV, addiction to food, addiction to drugs, addiction to just trying to do better. So it's a
Yeah,
very
even like
wide range.
celebrity addiction.
Yeah.
The probably the most sinister one too is like addiction to the medications and stuff that like legally prescribed drugs is very concerning as well.
Yeah, and what's crazy is that even though we have evolved with modern medicine and shit like that, that's still going on now. Like with the weight loss drugs, especially over here in the US, like the Ozempic craze is going on, and people are also taking like the pills for dieting. And so I feel like we kind of got away from it for a while when people just started accepting their bodies the way they were, and now we're going backwards, and everybody's kind of jumping on that like I've got to be skinny train again.
Hmm. And like even recently, we've had the I can't remember what it was called, but there's a show on Disney for me. It would have been Hulu for you about like the uh, opioid addiction, like the pain medications that they were
Hmm.
prescribing, and then just upping the doses, upping the doses, upping the doses, and people
Yeah.
just basically becoming heroin addicts from that.
Yeah, it's crazy how easily things get prescribed. Like Oxycontin is just like a
That's
dime a
the one.
it's like people are popping them like left and right, like no problem. Morphine is another thing. Like it's gotten to the point where, if morphine doesn't do it for you, they have morphine patches now that you can have and things like that. So it is a very big problem. And I feel like this movie really kind of sheds a light on not just illegal drugs, but prescribed drugs, like you said, and how crazy it can actually get.
Mhm. And yeah, like it also kind of explores that life and never-ending cycle of just life in general too. With these characters, they start at the bottom when there's like he's selling his mum's TV just to get the next hit, but then like they get their life back on track, not the legal way, but they get their life back on track. They've got some money saved. They're doing well.
Yep.
One thing happens where he realizes his mum has a problem now, so he like goes and get takes a hit to like just chill and relax, and then
Yeah.
that spirals them into their ultimate downfall, and they tumble into an abyss of problems.
Yeah, this movie is not just hard for like, or the reality of it kind of hits home, or like home for some people, but the visuals in this are extremely graphic in certain parts. And some of it is really crazy. Like I know you and I were kind of like on the same boat when there's a sequence where his mom is seriously just starving herself on her diet and the fucking refrigerator comes and attacks her
Hmm.
because she's hallucinating from her drugs that she's taking, because she has now taken multiple doses of it just to try and make it work better because she doesn't feel like it's working any better.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where Aronofsky has shined in all of his movies. Like his the way he portrays mental anguish and stuff. Like this one, it's obviously addiction, but like Black Swan, it's like split personalities and schizophrenia and stuff. Where
Yeah.
the way he incorporates the idea of hallucinations, people just like spiraling out of control, and like
Mhm.
this one in particular, it's like it's really bright in some points, and like the colors are all like distorted and off. Like it just, as a viewer, makes you feel uncomfortable the whole time.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of uncomfortable sequences,
The
just them
editing
having
too does that well. Like this is very fast paced editing, lots and lots of cuts. I read there's an average 100-minute film contains 600 to 700 cuts.
yeah, this one's like 2000, isn't it?
This
Something
one's
like that?
over 2,000 for the same
Yeah,
length of film. So yeah, you never really get a moment to just sit in a scene. It's just
yeah.
constantly cutting and like yeah, you just feel uncomfortable and uneasy the entire time because you never know when the next thing's gonna cut to something crazy and disturbing.
Yeah, and I feel like, that really does, put the viewer almost into the same mindset as an addict would, because you know, I feel like that's probably exactly how they would respond is, "Oh my god, what's going on? Oh my god, what's going on? Wait, hold on, what happened?" 'Cause so, it does give you that sense of, like, uneasiness, and it's really interesting how they were able to capture that. Um, even, like, the scene where Jared Leto, like, shoots up in a fucking open wound that's, like, fucking gangrene and infected, and he's gotta get it
Pussy
fixed.
and yeah,
Oh, that was like a grody scene, but it's the reality of it is that there are so many people out there that would probably do something like that, and so the fact that he's able to portray that on screen, and get it across, and it does look fucking revolting, is just insanity to me. Like, that scene sticks in my head with so many, like, out of this movie, there's a ton of, like, scenes that stick out in your head, but that one is, like, ingrained in my mind because of how raunchy it is to watch.
yeah, and it shows like the habitual nature of the drug use too. Like this is just what I do, even though like that vein is clearly screwed.
Yeah.
Any other time you'd be like, okay, I'm not going to go in that same spot again. Like I'll go over here. I'll swap
Yeah.
arms, but because it's just like a habit, it's like smokers.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people when they quit, the biggest problem is not having that like habit of just having something to do with their hands.
Mhm. Yeah.
So like this guy is just like, oh yeah, I just do this. This is just the motion I make, and it's like,
Yeah.
bro, there are multiple other places on your body that you could have done that. You didn't
Yeah.
have to go in
Right.
oozing wound.
Ugh. And the other, like, I kind of in this movie, I don't necessarily feel sorry for a lot of the characters because they are in their own state and they got themselves into that mess. And I was glad to see them try and get better, but then, they get worse. I feel bad for his mom of all people. I think she's the saddest character in this entire movie because she is lonely. She's a widow and she is obsessed with a TV show. She gets picked to go on this TV show, and that's why she takes these diet pills. And she just wants to fit into a dress that she wore at a graduation and be young and pretty again. And it's just so sad to watch her deteriorate from this perfectly normal kind of lady to eventually ending up in a psych ward where they do electroshock therapy on her.
Hmm.
She
Yeah,
is
like
the saddest.
her downfall is on the doctors and stuff like that for just
Right.
continually prescribing it, but she's also not telling them exactly how much of it she's taking and just taking more and more
Yeah.
and going to like a street dealer to get even more. So like she does contribute to her own downfall in one way, but it's yeah, it's like it's easy to fall into that spiral when a doctor is saying, "Oh, just take this."
Right.
Like
So,
I'm not a pharmacologist or a doctor. Like if a doctor says, "Oh, take this," you go, "Okay,
yeah,
it can't be
exactly.
bad for me if the doctor says it's okay."
Right. So it's yeah, I feel of all characters feel bad for her. Jennifer Connelly's character is she is such a mess. Like I want to feel sorry for her, but she is such a mess because she comes from money and you can tell that she comes from money and she's just so sad in herself and she wants to be a designer and she does literally anything just to score. Um at that point. Like, she had aspirations, you see her dreams, and then she crumbles and she reduces herself to sleeping with her therapist to get a score, and then we see her do other things to get just to get a fix, and it's absolutely awful what she puts her body through and her own self through.
Yeah, yeah, like it does a great job of depicting not only the psychological impacts of drug addiction and extreme drug use, but like the physical impacts with obviously the gross arm situation that leads to amputation. Also, like the impact on romantic relationships. So you see the Jared Leto character and the Marion character. They were good. They were happy together. Everything was going well. Things start to fall apart. Their addiction gets worse and worse, and their relationship falls apart. The relationship between Jared Leto and his mother, that also falls apart because they're both like neither of them are focused on the family aspect. They're just like get to the next hit.
Yep.
Um, Social relationships, his best friend, they drift apart and like they're trying to do everything to help each other and like try and go down to Miami to get the next batch of drugs that they can then go and sell and
Yeah.
just get caught up in that. And yeah, it's just very, very full on. And like we said, no happy ending, no redemption arc. It's just
No.
down, 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 down.
Yeah, and this is such a strange role for me to see Marlon Wayans in, because I know the Wayans brothers as just a funny haha, like they don't do serious movies. This is the most serious movie I've ever seen one of them in, and it's sad to see his character too, because he doesn't have real any aspirations other than just trying to get out of the hood and not be your stereotypical um you know person anymore that's like stuck there with his mom and stuff, and he does not know how to handle it, and he doesn't know how to handle life. And it's just like I said, it's such a weird role for him to be in because he is such a funny character usually.
Yeah, yeah, like that's the intense part where it's just like he's just doing like he's trying not to be the stereotype, but in doing that becomes the
He-
stereotype.
yeah, yeah, so it's crazy. This movie is such a whirlwind. um
And
this
his
movie,
ending, like the final scene for his character too, that's
yeah,
such a heartbreaking scene. You're like,
it
oh my
is
god,
because he's
this
just
poor
by
kid.
himself. Just no one, absolutely no one cares about him at that point. And even Jared Leto's character, again, like his arm gets amputated and he has to come to grips with reality that like his relationship's over, his girlfriend's not coming to see him in the hospital, like he's by himself. Um his mom, she's in the psych ward, and her neighborly friends are just beside themselves, and then Jennifer Connelly is left by herself too with, you see her and she just has her last score because that's what her goal was, to be able to get high one more time, and she gets that and she cradles it. And that's the kind of like one of those scenes that really hits you, is seeing someone so addicted to something that like they're cradling it like it's their last thing.
Yeah, like that's the haunting ending too, where they all of the endings mimic each other. They're all just alone, laying on a bed. Multiple, two of them, I think, maybe three, are in like just a fetal position on a bed, just like I've just returned back to essentially nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUS WRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
Yeah, this movie is not for the faint of heart. It's not one of those really well-known movies either, unless of course you're a weirdo like me. But it did pretty well. So to get into like the statistics and stuff, this movie had a $4.5 million budget and it grossed 7 point something, 7.4, I think. So it's not terrible, especially for the kind of movie it is. I'm actually surprised it even did that well. Um because it's not like a movie that you're just gonna watch with everybody and be like, "Oh, yeah, look at it. Let's
Blockbuster,
go
go
watch
to the
this."
movies weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely not one of those, so I was really impressed with that. They did film it mostly in Brooklyn, which again, that's, a very stereotypical area where, you would see people like that just living on the streets, and doing
Probably not
anything
so
to
much now. I think
get high.
Brooklyn's been, like, pretty gentrified now. It's, like,
Right, yeah.
kind of a
Back
fancy area
then
now, but, like,
I
back then, not so much, and
yeah, like in the late '90s and stuff like that, I think it was
I
really
think
bad
this
there.
this movie probably also has had, like, a really long tail in terms of earnings too, because, like, Aronofsky's gone on to do bigger and bigger things.
Yeah,
Like, The Whale just won, like, Best Picture or something Best Actor or
right.
something last year, so I imagine a lot of people have since gone back and, like, they're now checking this movie out on streaming or
Something.
DVD and stuff, so they're probably, like it's probably still generating revenue even to today. Probably not a lot, but still some.
Yeah, you're gonna find those people that are just like they go down a rabbit hole. Especially, I do that same thing where if I watch a movie and I'm like, "Ooh, I wonder who directed this," and then I'll go down a rabbit hole of some of their films. And I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty fucking good. Or I'll go back and be like, "Wow, the movie I watched originally was their best fucking film," so no need to go back anymore. But
Mhm.
yeah, definitely crazy. The toll that I think this probably took mentally on some of the cast is it probably still lingering, I think. At least from it would for my perspective. Um, Jared Leto lost a shit ton of weight and lived on the streets with people to get into the mindset because obviously he's a fucking method actor and that's what those people do.
Yeah, he
um,
lost 25 pounds, hung out with real life heroin addicts, and was even, I read he was like when he was hanging out with them, just to fit in more, he'd be shooting up water.
yeah, it's insane, like what
Giving
they do
himself
with them.
saline injections, like, "What the f"
Yeah,
Didn't need to go that
Jennifer.
far, bro.
No, Jennifer Connelly did something similar. She didn't hang out with addicts, but Jennifer Connelly moved into a building and lived just like her actual character would have, and she designed a lot of her own costumes throughout that movie too. Like a lot of pieces that she styled, they actually used that in those films because she resonated with the character and tried to do that. And she even went as far as going to Narcotic Anonymous meetings to hear stories of recovering addicts, which is kind of crazy that
See,
she was that
like,
committed.
that I can understand.
Yeah, that's the sane
Hanging
version
out
of
with
that.
legitimate addicts on the street and shooting up just to fit in.
That's
Bit
kinda
far there,
nuts.
Jared.
Yeah. I also read that they're in the scene where, Jared Leto character and Marlon Wayans' character, when they're trying to go and get the big score, through the supermarket, they used real addicts in that scene,
Mhm,
and they were shooting up on set,
mhm.
which is fucking bonkers, like, that could never fucking fly nowadays, like, could you just I don't think that would fucking
An
fly
insurance company
nowadays.
would eat that co production company alive.
I was in shock
Because
when I was
imagine if
reading
one of
that.
them OD'd on set. That falls
Right.
back on the production.
I'm just like, "Dude, what the hell?" I can't imagine that. It's
Did you
bonkers to me.
did you also see one of the directions and directives that Aronofsky gave Leto and Wayans before
Mm.
even getting onto set?
Oh, yeah, they were supposed to abstain from eating sugar and having sex or something like that, to give the withdrawal reaction to be a real withdrawal kind of reaction.
Yeah, so they were asked to avoid sex and sugar for 30 days in order to understand an overwhelming craving.
Yeah, that's
Because,
insanity.
yeah, sugar is one of those, is like the most highly addictive drugs in
It's
the
in
world.
everything.
It and caffeine.
Yeah.
Sugar and caffeine, like, people can say, "Oh, I'm not addicted to anything." It's like, I
Do you have a
bet
cup
you
of
are.
coffee every day? Yeah,
Yeah.
if you have a cup of coffee every day, you have this, like, caffeine addiction.
And sugar, like, it's in everything. Like, it's in
Yeah, it is.
fucking bread, especially over
Mhm.
there.
Yeah,
It's
over here we love our white bread apparently. Like I don't eat that shit, but like yeah, bleached bread is like the number one thing. And I'm like, oh dude, it's a lot of sugar. So yeah, that happened. I was really impressed with the hair and makeup team when I was reading about Jared Leto's mom's character. Um, she had to go through a lot of different stages. We saw her. So the makeup team, I read they made 2 suits for her to show her in different weight loss things and like different weights. She lost 10 pounds on her own, and then they had, was it 9 wigs for her and 4 neck prosthetics. So to give, like, if that gives you any indication of how much her character goes up and down and battles with stuff, like, that's insane.
hmm One of the other fun facts I wrote down was the word heroin is never actually said by
No, it's
any of
not. It's
the characters in
implied.
this movie. It's like
It's just implied.
it's very clearly implied, and like it's undoubted what the addiction is to,
Yeah.
but they never say it, which is
No.
probably a good thing. Don't want to
Yeah.
glorify it at all.
Yeah. This, I also read the I think the most interesting fact for me on this movie was that it was rated NC-17 over here originally when they went to get it rated, which is the worst of the worst. That's like an adult film rating essentially, for theatrical release, and then the director appealed it and lost, but he said he didn't want to change it because it would change the dynamic and understanding, and so they released it without a rating. And then when they re-released it, they gave it an R and then cut the sex scene in there because there's a very graphic, well, it's graphic for what it is, but I can't imagine the uncut sequence that would have made it, because what is shown is pretty graphic too. So yeah.
That the Marion at the party scene.
Yeah, Marion at the party scene, that was cut.
That's the cut edited version?
That's the cut edited version.
Holy Jesus.
Yeah, so like I said, I can't imagine what the uncut version of that would be because it is a very intense scene. And
It's
again,
not subtle.
no, it's not. And again, she does it just so she can score. So it's like it's so sad to see that happen.
It's definitely not subtle. And like I imagine the depictions of drug use were probably also a major factor in that. Like
Yeah.
you see the mom just like popping pills over and over again. Like we said, we see Leto like
Shoot up in
straight
an
up
open
shooting
wound.
up. And it's like, oh. So
Yeah.
that would have been a major contributing factor. Like the
Yep.
sex scene probably not ideal, but yeah.
Unless it was more graphic. I can't understand how that would be even more graphic than what it is unless it was just a longer sequence. But
It's probably,
regardless, even still.
it probably just lingered on that scene a lot longer
Yeah.
than it did.
Yeah. But yeah, this, for how intense this movie is, I saw it's got a 78 on Rotten Tomatoes and a 71 on Metacritic still, so it's not lacking in popularity. And Ellen Burstyn, she was nominated for, what was it, an Academy and a Golden Globe, along with a billion other fucking awards too, because she did such a well job. But the movie has been all over the fucking place, on film festivals and things like that. Like it gives like the feeling of an indie film, but it's not an indie film. It's just one of those like Toronto Film Festival movies kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I thought it was very good. It was very intense. It's definitely one of those ones where be prepared. Make sure you know the subject matter of this movie. Don't just go in willy-nilly thinking, oh, this is an Aronofsky movie. I like this. Yep. Do your research first.
Yeah, it's very different. It's a very different for him, and I've only seen a couple of his films, and this one is definitely not par for the course with him, I don't think.
Yeah, make sure you're in the right mindset. It's like,
yes,
don't watch this just because you watched The Whale and went, oh, I like that.
Yeah, because it's not a whale movie. It's definitely not. It's
The Whale is much more like emotional and about like family relationships and dynamics. This is not that. It's also nothing like Black Swan.
No.
Mother is like very religious undertones, so it's definitely not like that. It's of all like his top movies that I listed, it's probably the closest to The Wrestler, which is also very intense and bleak and no happy ending. So
right.
If you enjoyed The Wrestler, you will enjoy this, but also still make sure you are not going to struggle with the addiction theme, and yeah, just be in the right mindset. Don't go into this when you're feeling down and like, oh, I just want to watch a movie and feel a bit better about myself. This won't help.
No. If you're gonna watch this, just make sure you're in the right mindset. Make sure it's like on a day where it's like bright and sunny outside, please, because it's a depressing fucking movie. Yeah, it's all over. It's a crazy kind of, honestly, it's like a trip. It's like literally watching a trip happen, but not, not one of those fun ones that some of the people depict. Like, oh yeah, it's so much fun to do this. No, it's not. This is the
Yeah,
gross
it's
side of
not a
things.
happy psychedelic trip. It's a depressing, I want to die trip.
Yeah, it is. It's very intense. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm glad that I got you to watch this movie because it's oddly enough, it is one of my favorite films to like see. I think I go back to it just because of the visuals and like how well it is done as far as the cuts go and how they even do like the splicing with the characters on the same scene. When like Jennifer Connelly and Jared Leto are together in bed, but they're like from different angles on the same exact shot. Like it's very interesting how they do that. And I think that's probably why I always go back to this.
Oh yeah, like the direction and the cinematography and like just the way it's put together is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Did it win any awards for editing and stuff like that?
I don't think it did. I think it was just nominated for a bunch of shit.
It's ridiculous.
Which is,
it should have won something.
yeah, it's crazy to me. Like when I'm looking back at this, and I didn't really research what other movies came out in the year that this would have been in the Academies and the Golden Globes. But I feel like because of the subject matter of it, it was probably snubbed for a bunch of shit because they don't want to glorify addiction, probably.
Academy Award nominated Best Actress. It won the American Film Institute Movie of the Year, top 10 film of the decade by the Austin Film Critics Association. It came in 5th.
There we go.
The Awards Circuit Community Awards, it won a bunch of those.
Yeah, there's like, it was nominated for a ton of things. Like the list goes on and on. Like it was hard to narrow down exactly like anything that it like really shined out through. But I think it's crazy that like it only got one nomination, it seems, for the
Academies has only got
one. Yeah, which is nuts to me because again, like I'm not the biggest Jared Leto fan, but he literally was like going through terminal, like you felt him stab his fucking arm with a needle when he did it.
Okay, so Best Picture was Gladiator.
Never mind, that explains everything.
Best Director, Steven Soderbergh for Traffic. Best Actor went to Russell Crowe for Gladiator. Julia Roberts won for Erin Brockovich. Best Actress. Makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Benicio del Toro, Best Supporting Actor for Traffic. Best Screenplay was Almost Famous.
I had some stiff competition.
Best Sound Editing went to 2571.
That's crazy. It's crazy to me because this soundtrack, like the main title song for this, or like the music for this movie, is haunting. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, yep, that's Requiem for a Dream. Like I know it off the top of my head, and it's crazy that I know it because it's not something that like you would generally like register, I guess, unless you've seen the movie. But it is a very haunting score.
Best Cinematography went to Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Makes sense.
Yep.
Best Makeup went to How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Again, makes sense.
Best Film Editing went to Traffic.
I don't think I've ever seen Traffic, so I can't really.
I kind of need to go and watch that now to see like
how it holds up.
Yeah, I don't understand how this Requiem for a Dream wasn't nominated because the nominees in editing were Traffic, Almost Famous, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Gladiator, and Wonder Boys.
Yeah, they could have gotten rid of Almost Famous because honestly, like, no offense, that's not like a monumental movie.
It's got decent editing. Gladiator doesn't have anything like overly complex in the editing.
Yeah.
But Gladiator did get 12 nominations. So Crouching Tiger got 10.
Yeah, those two movies were phenomenal though for that time frame. I feel like it's kind of like this year with the Academies and stuff like that, where things are getting snubbed or people are getting snubbed for certain reasons, but I'm not going to go on that tangent because it's not my job to go on that tangent today. But yeah, so overall, what do you give Requiem for a Dream?
I gave this 4 out of 5. It's brilliant in terms of editing, great performances, it's just very intense.
Yeah.
It's definitely off-putting for a lot of people. So it's definitely one where you have to know the film, know what you're getting in for. Like we said, don't just dive in because like, oh, Jared Leto, I like him. Darren
Yeah,
Aronofsky,
don't
I
do
like
that.
him. Maybe watch the trailer first. See if you can deal with the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah. So this movie is also this movie would be a 5 if it wasn't as intense for me. It is a 4, even though I do go back to it quite frequently, just because it is one of those movies that you cannot watch with everybody. And you know, that kind of like puts it off for me when it comes to certain people. Like I can't watch it with other, like certain people in my life. So you know, it is what it is, but it is a fantastic filmed movie. I think that they really grasped the whole what it's like to be an addict to multiple things, not just hardcore drugs. And it's real. It's very nitty gritty, like definitely
Yeah,
feels
it's very
real.
raw.
It is, yeah, it's super raw. But yeah.
And yeah, like you said, it's not one of those movies where you just go, Sunday Arvo, I feel like watching a movie. Yeah, I'll just watch this again. Maybe not.
Yeah, no. So definitely, yeah, definitely trigger addiction of all sorts. Psychotherapy being administered. There's sexual abuse kind of things going on with it, insane stuff. So just be mindful. But yeah. So
Yeah, big forewarning.
yeah, big forewarning. But yeah, so Jamie can take us out because I suck at outros. So yeah, have fun.
Thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Corrina on Instagram at Miss Corrina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at Jamie Apps Media and at Pario Magazine. The commentary booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Apps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Apps Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.